Good evening. Welcome to a very special program. It's been an incredible day today in India. There's just so much that's happened. 3-0 for the BJP and its allies in the northeast in the elections in Nagaland, Meghalaya and Tripura. There's a landmark judgment in the Supreme Court on the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners, now by the Chief Justice of India, the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, and also the formation of a Supreme Court appointed panel to look into the allegations raised against the Adani Group. So three important developments. The fourth one, which we may not get around to discussing on this program, G20, think about it. The Russian Foreign Minister has met the US Secretary of State here in New Delhi to discuss Ukraine. It's been a brief meeting, but that's taken place over here during India's G20 year. Now, over the next hour, we will be looking at all of these details with the best panel of guests on all of these topics. Ankit.
Well, at least we'll try to get you the larger implications of what has happened in the election results, and also the big topic that Vishnu was talking about, the repercussions of the Supreme Court now coming in with this massive order which is going to have a far-reaching impact as far as the democracy is concerned on the Election Commission as well. Let's very quickly first give you the bigger picture on the elections. What has happened in the three states, the states which are setting the ball. They have in fact begun the very important long election season. 6 more states to go, and then the big battle of 2024. Let me start with Nagaland. The Bharatiya Janata Party and its ally NDTV. In fact, NDTV and its ally BJP, their pre-poll alliance has comfortably sailed through. They are on 37 seats, 7 more than last time. The BJP and its ally. Now let's just shift focus. In fact, and other interesting aspect as far as Nagaland is concerned, while the Congress and other political parties, the NPF, have not been able to make any sort of dent, just 2 seats for the NPF. There have been these smaller parties, parties like the NCP, which has got 7 MLAs coming on under their banner, and also LJP and of course Mr. Attavale's 2 MLAs as well. So the others that you see right now, 21, a lot of political parties there as well. Now let's shift focus to the results of Tripura. The Bharatiya Janata Party and its ally IPFT have once again, they are coming back in power, leading on 33 of Tripura's 60 seats. The score is down by 11 from 2018, but the BJP has come back to form the government in the state of Tripura, despite in fact changing the chief minister. And the alliance, which was stitched by the Congress and the left, not working at all. And the big headline, the debut of, in fact, the Royal Scion and Tripura Mota, which has come with 13 seats. Meanwhile, in Meghalaya, was heading for a hung house when Chief Minister Conrad Sangma, whose party, National People's Party, is the single largest party. We have been told they dialed BJP Chief Strategist Amit Shah. The two parties have decided to come together and form the government. Remember, they were in government, they were partners in the government before they went to the polls, then decided to go alone, a bitter fight, and now have come back to form the government. So the Bharatiya Janata Party winning 2 states and forming the government in all 3.
All right, well, let's quickly introduce you to our panelists. And as promised, we've got a great panel this evening. Hindol Sengupta, the historian and author, with us. We've got Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, Rajat Sethi, Sanjoy Hazarika, perhaps the finest expert on the Northeast and the political process over there. We are also joined by Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, Sanjay Kumar of CSDS as well. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Sanjoy Hazarika, what's the big picture over here?
I think if you look at it in preparation for the next round of state elections in 2024, I think the writing is on the wall, as it were. It's that in this round of elections, the biggest gainer has been the BJP. But there are 2 other outcomes which I'd like to quickly reflect on. One is that regional parties exist, are strong and robust, but with a slightly different approach, a national approach, a national image. And I think that especially comes out in Meghalaya, where smaller parties, the UDP has actually the 2nd largest party. And I think the third thing is that the campaign and the work on the ground as far as development infrastructure, all this is concerned, some of this is definitely having an impact on people in terms of voting, but also in terms of aspirations.
Sure.
Because I think that is also a key part of all this.
Right, Vishnu, if our guests permit us, let's very quickly just shift our focus a little bit on the big Supreme Court verdict. Mr. S.Y. Qureshi, former Chief Election Commissioner, is joining us at this moment. Mr. Qureshi, thank you so much for joining us, sir. I want to start by asking you, I saw your tweet today and you said, great day, our long pending demand being met. How do you see this judgment? Because the government, when it was arguing in the court, it said that this is not the business of the Supreme Court to interfere. This is the job of the executive. Very strong statements have been made by the Supreme Court in its order.
Yes, of course, the government may have opposed it, but this has been a demand which has been on for 20 years from the public. And many of my predecessors have written to the government demanding that there should be a collegium system in VA. And it is not that we are not familiar with the collegium system. Human Rights Commission chairman is appointed by through collegium. CVC, CIC, they're all appointed through the collegium. And even Director CBI, which is not even a statutory body, which is like a head of department like Director of Agriculture. But because of the important role that he plays, on the Supreme Court had the advice that it should be through collegium. So we are familiar with this system, and the most sensitive institution, which is Election Commission of India, should also follow the same. Now, interesting thing is the most powerful election commission of the world has the most defective system of appointment. We are the only country in the world where appointment is made unilaterally by the government of the day. Elsewhere, it is at least a collegium, maybe a select committee of parliament. In some cases, the entire parliament debates and interviews. In some cases, the candidates are interviewed on national television. So in such a situation, this is an institution which should have total acceptability, which can come in only when leader of opposition is also privy and party to the selection of the incumbent.
But sir, let me ask you this, and just as part of what the Supreme Court said today, I'll just quote one line. A party in power will have an insatiable quest to remain in power through a servile commission. Is the Election Commission today, sir, and be honest about it, in your opinion, servile to the government of the day?
No, I would not like to comment on the Election Commission at all, and any aspersion cast on the Election Commission actually personally hurts me. But generally in the last 70 years, despite the defective system of appointment of Election Commission, the governments have come and the governments have gone. Governments have lost to another party, the other party comes and it loses to the third party. That has been happening all the time. So the Election Commission cannot actually influence the verdict as much as made out through this line, but in small ways, it should assert its independence.
But, sir, it also comes at a time when there have been larger questions that have been raised by the opposition on the functioning of the Election Commission. Every second day we hear the voices being made that it is not as free and as independent as, the oppositions have been making those allegations. In that sense, how significant is this ruling, and what are the, immediate and far-reaching impact that you see of this ruling on the elections and the Election Commission in the country?
Now, once the appointment is made through a collegium where the leader of the opposition is a party, then they will not be able to raise these fingers. So, in fact, the moral authority of the Election Commission will go up, because then nobody will have the right to point a finger, because leader of opposition is also approve your appointment. So it will take away that possibility, and which is the most significant gain from this judgment.
Sir, let me ask you one or two more questions. The unrelenting abuse of the electoral process, the Supreme Court said, over a period of time is the surest way to the grave of democracy. Has there been unrelenting abuse of the electoral process which the Election Commission has been unable to halt?
Well, till our time and for a few years after that, we never heard these complaints. But if these are the kind of allegations which are being made, it is very hurtful and which is very sad for the institution and also for the credibility of India. You know, we have been proudly saying all over the world that the election is never questioned by the opposition, and the winning chief minister or prime minister gives the chair with folded hand to the winner. But that is not what is happening in US. We are watching Nigerian election; they are being questioned, but our election has never been questioned. So the credibility has been because of functioning of the election commission, despite this basic flaw of appointment, and if it is also removed institutionally, because we have to say that we hope it will continue to happen in future. Hope is never a strategy. It is just wishful thinking. Strategy has to be institutional checks, and this is an institutional check.
All right, so thanks very much for joining us. You know, it is a landmark judgment. Let's see what finally happens in terms of the functioning of the Election Commission. I think just in addition to the Election Commission itself, Ankit, this was also many of the remarks, a statement on democracy in our country. I mean, the Supreme Court spoke, for example, on the media and how a large section of the media has abdicated its role and become partisan. They spoke about how democracy is inexplicably intertwined with power to the people. So a very strong statement indeed. Ankit?
All right, let's now go across to senior Supreme Court lawyer, Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, member of the Congress party as well. Sir, thank you for taking the time out. I would like to start where we left with Mr. Qureshi. In your view, the judgment today of the Supreme Court, because the opposition has been raising a lot of questions as far as the functioning of the Election Commission is concerned, how do you view this judgment, and will this now put an end at least to the allegations and the accusations that the opposition has been making on the Election Commission?
Well, let me start by saying that it's a historic judgment. It's a momentous judgment. It's a very, very special judgment, and in particular, because unfortunately in several judgments, the Supreme Court says the right thing, encapsulates the right thing, lays the right principle, but does not walk the talk in the result. Here they have walked the talk in the result. Secondly, there has been this supreme irony that on the one hand, level playing field, democracy, free and fair elections is part of the basic structure. And you know, the basic structure means that you cannot even amend it by a constitutional amendment. The constitutional amendment is itself unconstitutional. And on the other hand, the mega policeman tasked, entrusted and charged with the responsibility of maintaining that level playing field has a very poor selection process, entirely executive based. So this was an anachronism, a complete anomaly, which, of course, I must say that it has not been misused by and large. But I must equally say that the assault on institutions has been so acute in the last 7-8 years, across the board in different institutions, that I think this was a very timely judgment to strengthen the selection process of the EC.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the election in the Northeast. Again, you know, it's the Congress party has done very poorly. In Tripura, your partnership with the left seems to have worked to a certain extent, but nowhere enough to actually come to power. This being the case, and we've heard the word introspection time and time again from the Congress, where does it leave you? The Northeast is where the Congress used to dominate, and certainly in states like Meghalaya.
Well, first of all, I'm taken aback because I was told that I am here only to speak on the Election Commission. But since there is a small breach of promise by you, let me nevertheless answer the question. I think the Northeast, one state can hardly be called a BJP victory. It is nothing but riding completely piggyback. I straightaway confess that riding piggyback, they have been far more successful than the Congress, because from some time now, money power has been used to do that. Not now, but before. And therefore, you really can't gloat, as the BJP appears to do, in a BJP victory in at least one of those 3 states. But Tripura, I think, is the real takeaway in their favor. And I think there must be a lot of work. I don't agree with the fact that parties who are all part of the secular non-NDA fold should have stood at all in Tripura. There should have been one large Mahagathbandhan, and that has cost us dearly. The other states, I think, are all matters of really riding piggyback, joining parties. In fact, in one state, as you know, completely the entire party, the Congress party, had been hijacked. I don't think it's really electoral, but I think there is certainly a very great misuse of electoral bonds for some time now in the northeast states.
Okay. Let me bring you back then, sir, on the judgment of the Supreme Court today. While you make this point that, at this, the institutions are under attack, the BJP then says that, look what was happening when the Congress was also ruling. And they give the example of Mr. Gill when he was the election commissioner. Immediately after his retirement, he went to the Rajya Sabha, supported by the Congress party. So will this serve as an example? What has happened today will serve as an example that these kind of other, incidents don't take place again, because the questions have been raised again and again on successive governments.
So I have 2 or 3 answers very quickly and briefly. First and foremost, there is no doubt that there have been aberrations. For every Gill example, I can give you equally a Chaturvedi example of the CAG by the BJP, and I can give you several more, including a former Chief Justice of India in the Rajya Sabha. That is not relevant. What is relevant is that anybody who is objective and fair and honest puts his hand on his head, on his heart, will find and say that, generally speaking, in the last 8 years, a general assault or subversion or control freak approach to institutions in India is unprecedented in the previous 70 years of Indian history. That, I think, is an incontrovertible statement, and that includes other non-Congress governments, including the Vajpayee government, in comparison. And I think, given that fact, this is a historic judgment. I must remind you, because institutional memory is short, as recent as the 2019 general elections, I was in charge, in fact, of many of the complaints to the Election Commission. And in every complaint, about 25 major ones, about 17 or 18 of them, there was a decision this way or the other. And in many of them, there was, in fact, rectification action taken. But in the 5 complaints involving the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, the Election Commission adopted a very strange approach. They just didn't decide. And in the 7-week window for an election, we had to go to the Supreme Court to get a mandamus to just decide something this way or that way. And you know that the one election commissioner who deferred or dissented, what fate he met, how he was lampooned.
You're talking about Mr. Lavasa, right?
Yes, and how he had to ultimately leave his post. Right. But the most important point is, today now, with this judgment, you have broadly I'm saying, a uniformity in the major institutions, and that's an important takeaway. In the Lokpal, in the NHRC, now in the EC, broadly the CBI has a similar procedure, the CVC. However, and I have asked for that in a press conference today, there is absolutely no doubt that to restore at least a vestige of confidence in fair prosecution, the ED must have the same thing.
All right.
On what basis must you deny this to the ED? The government of India has been going in the opposite direction. Far from thinking, they have in fact made a law which allows them to extend the ED director's tenure each year, year on year, but only by 1 year for a total of 5 years.
Okay, Dr. Singh, lots of important points that you mentioned. I'm just interrupting you now because I need to move on to my panel, of which I always invite you to remain, but you never do. But thanks so much for sharing your views on what is without doubt a landmark judgment. I'd just like to introduce a few other panelists who've also joined us and start out our debate this evening. Rohan Gupta of the Congress with us, Neerja Chaudhary, the senior editor, Pabitra Margarita, member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha and the political secretary to the Chief Minister of Assam, and the Trinamool spokesperson Bishwajit Deb as well. Sanjay Kumar, let me come to you first. You've been waiting very, very patiently. Let's take a look at Meghalaya. Now, this is the one state which in a sense was the most interesting and exciting because it was a hung assembly. The NPP at a particular stage seem to have the option of not necessarily going with the BJP, but the fact that they did indicates what? Is it that governments in the northeast want to always have that link with the centre, or is it because the BJP is just too strong in the region now?
I think the option for going along with the BJP would be for several reasons. One, definitely the ruling party of the state would like to be seen as in partnership with the party which is a very dominant party. For several reasons, but one main reason would be that they would be seen as close to the central government, and they would be able to deliver benefits to the people in terms of developmental projects, etc. So I think that's the reason why the party which doesn't have a majority would like to go along with the BJP, not with other regional party. But when you said Meghalaya is an interesting, because there is a hung assembly. I don't think hung assembly is an interesting thing, because we would see when there are hung assemblies, we know what kind of a activity takes place. So I don't consider hung assembly as an interesting. It gives us an idea of a fractured mandate, but I think personally I would prefer an assembly which gives a clear mandate.
Sure. Okay, Rajat, now if I can come to you. First of all, I mean, we saw what the Prime Minister came, almost a 45-minute speech. How or can we, for a localized election like we saw in these 3 states, can there be any extrapolation or some sort of an advantage or a message that the BJP can take, not only for the 6 states, but also going forward to 2024?
Well, as authors, we get a free pass of publicizing a book. We don't miss out on any opportunities on that. So I wrote this book, which is titled The Last Battle of Saraighat. This is titled around the fact that there is this historic battle, and it relates with today's politics of the Northeast region. And it talks about the fundamental reasons behind the rise of the BJP in that region, and something that Prime Minister alluded to today. He said that there have been certain historical misgivings of governments after the governments who have sort of created this feeling of feeling orphaned within your own country, as if there was nobody to care for. There was a transactional relationship where the central government had repeatedly with these state governments, and basic things weren't fulfilled. To pick up Tripura, for instance, Prime Minister was saying, when in 2018, I was campaigning in Tripura, and I can tell you, when you used to land in Tripura, you say Lal Salam, you enter into an auto rickshaw, and everywhere you just see red flags. They didn't celebrate Diwali. Although during the time of Diwali, they used to celebrate official Bolshevik revolution. That used to be the state of affairs. When Prachanda used to win a seat in Nepal, they used to celebrate in Tripura. That was the disconnect that a small region of our country was from the rest of the country. Okay. And this is what I think what has fundamentally changed, and this is the message that Prime Minister is giving. Sure. That repeated focus on development is the key which is going to drive forward, not these artificial alliances which are created on paper.
Okay. Rohan Gupta, Ankit, what was it, 50 times that the Prime Minister went to the Northeast?
Precisely.
50 rallies.
50 times from 2014 to now, the Prime Minister has visited Northeast 50 times. Which other Prime Minister he was in comparison asking has done that?
So Rohan, that is the question. I mean, how many times has Rahul Gandhi gone there?
See, I think, Vishnu, when you lose elections, it's not a particular reason or, the cause which is responsible. I think overall, what we anticipated that Congress left alliance will click and the vote will, get clubbed. I think we misjudged that. That has not happened. The vote has not translated, number one. Number two, the defections what we were facing in all the states, we could not come out of them and could not develop the leadership in the short period. That was number two. So overall, I feel these are the 2 major reasons why we failed. But at the same time, Vishnu, one important fact, because I always see things positively, in Maharashtra, if you see the way Congress has fought and won the by-election, the seat which was with BJP for last 33 years, it's not a small thing. So I think we are getting that momentum, and now we are preparing ourselves to fight against BJP. But yes, these 3 states, what I feel personally, this what we expected or our decisions, what we took, we could not convert them into result.
It's interesting that you were saying that vote did not transfer. Which vote that the Congress is talking about that could have transferred? Because the vote that the Congress had left the Congress party in 2018. Were you expecting it to come back to you and then go to the left? But Hindol Singh Gupta, if I come to you and draw you in on this, is the picture that is painted that the Bharatiya Janata Party is winning because of massive development work that has been done or Prime Minister's visit? Is it as simple as that? Because if you take a look at Tripura Mota's rise, at least if we are talking about Tripura itself, it's not that work that the BJP talks about has reached in that manner to the tribal areas. Otherwise, it would have shown results in the tribal seats as well. 13 seats have been won by Tripura Mota.
There will always be people who will win seats because of certain latent separatist sentiments and so on and so forth, especially in a place like the Northeast. I think there is a bigger issue which nobody wants to talk about or tackle. These victories in the Northeast are not happening out of the blue. The BJP's, in a sense, parent organization, the RSS, has been working in the Northeast for a very, very long time. Anybody who knows the history of the work that has happened over many decades, starting from the time when Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel warned Pandit Nehru that, the Northeast is going to be a very, very restive place for India. This work has been happening for 70 long years. And many of this work, especially with the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram and so on and so forth, organizations like these work at the very grassroots, far away from, New Delhi's television studios or, newspaper writers and so on and so forth. Now, that work doesn't immediately bear fruit. It cannot. It requires finally a tipping point, and that tipping point has come with Prime Minister Modi.
Okay.
But that's not enough. Mr. Modi is also, since we're talking about geopolitics, Mr. Modi has ensured that the conversation about India's peripheries is now very central in our lives. And this is really, really critical. We've had more conversation. You can measure how many roads has been built and so on and so forth. But the conversation about India's peripheries, whether it's
the Northeast has been mainstreamed.
Absolutely, including parts of the Northeast where most Indians wouldn't go. You look at this, you look at the new airport in Arunachal Pradesh, for instance. How many Indians would ever even go to Arunachal Pradesh?
And look at it. I mean, one example could also be us. I mean, I don't remember any other Northeast election being covered from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening. So that, in a way, has also changed the perception.
No, I mean, television anchors used to talk about the tyranny of distance. Television anchors used to talk about the tyranny of distance from our studios. That tyranny of distance does not exist anymore, and we have to accept that.
But can we? And Ranjan Mukhopadhyay, if I can come to you, can the entire credit of this, in a way, be given to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the way the BJP fought the election, not only this time but also the way they fought the election in 2018 and have been continuously shown their presence on the ground?
No, I think there were three distinct elections. Sanjay Hazarika has pointed to a very important point. If we actually calculate that the number of seats which have been won out of these 180 by the regional parties and by the national parties, we will understand that we are talking about distinct elections. Tripura was a different election. Here again, I think the result presents a very big challenge to the BJP. I only hope that the government does not actually, the way Hindol was actually saying that separatist forces rising, I don't think that would be a very right approach for the BJP government in Tripura to politically tackle the Tripamota's rise there, because then you are going to actually alienate the tribal community, and there is a past, a lot of conflict has been there in the past, and that would not be the right note to start on. I also think that, I was also listening to Mr. Modi's speech very and he made a very significant new concept, the Triveni concept. First is that Mr. Modi is sharing the kudos with the party workers. That is, I think, very significant. And for the 24 elections, we have been saying that this is actually going to give an indication as to what might be the likely strategy in 24. I think the BJP is fairly clear that listing three things. One is the work done by the BJP governments. Second is that the work culture of the BJP. Now, it might be contested by the opposition parties, but how they actually contest has to be seen. But this is what the BJP is going with. And the third thing is that they are actually talking about the seva bhav of the Karyakarta. I think it's a very interesting combination which has to be countered by the opposition parties.
Pavitra Margarita, since you've been so close, in tracking what the BJP is doing on the ground, I have two questions for you. Number one, the BJP expected a tsunami wave in Tripura. Now, that's clearly not happened. Has there been an underestimation of the tribal vote? The Tripamota's rise over there, number one. And number two, what is the inside story of Meghalaya? We know about that phone call between Amit Shah and Mr. Sangma, Conrad Sangma. Now, is it a done deal over there? What exactly transpired? Was this pre-planned? Because there was a conversation between him and Himanta Biswa Sarma on Tuesday. So, two questions. Tripura, number one, and number two, the inside story, and don't say you won't tell us.
Definitely, I'll begin with the Meghalaya case, because what was the conversation between our two leaders and the Honorable Chief Minister of Meghalaya? I should not comment on that. But
no, please comment.
I can come. But no, how can I comment? Honorable Home Minister and the the former Chief Minister of Meghalaya were
Sir,
talking.
you have an inside view. You are the political secretary to the Chief Minister, the man who in Assam who is actually...
So we brought you because you know the answer to the question, sir. So please go ahead. Anyway, go ahead,
not
sir.
At all. So please allow me to
yes.
mention one thing. Although it's not related to your direct question. So you see, this is a very we felt very sad today that the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, that is my house, Mr. Kharge said when he was asked about the result, he said that that is the mandate. It's not a matter to think so much. This is a small states election. And although there is no election now, but these things sent a very bad message. The second thing, we actually don't expect much more from them because you see the Congress numero uno leader in his last tweet, he reiterated from his official handle that his concept of India, that is India is from Gujarat to Bengal and from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So their main star, the main the leader of the Congress, he always excludes the northeastern part. So they are getting the result. And today also Mr. Kharge reiterated that this is the small states election, we should not bother, something like that. Okay. So it gives us pain, keeping aside the political ideology. And also we won Tripura, Nagaland or Meghalaya because of the development politics, of this massive development done under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji. Okay. I'll give just two instances in 20 seconds.
Yes.
20 seconds. Nagaland got its first railway station in 1903. And for the second railway station, the people of Nagaland, the Northeast, had to wait for 119 years. When Modi ji came to power, then we got the second railway station. This is an example of the development. Right. Each and every road has been constructed, and the budget allocation for the northeastern region has been now increased by 3 folds. Okay. So we can imagine the pace and the scale of development. Only because of development we have won, and the Tripura, Nagaland.
Just half a second. Let's get the strike rate rolling.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And get everybody in. Let me quickly, before in fact we go to Nija, Biswajit Deb, TMC spokesperson, is also joining us. For the TMC, Biswajit, it was, I mean, the way the TMC pitched itself in Meghalaya, not almost, you hijacked the entire Congress party, changed the color, and the TMC was hoping to make a big dent as far as Meghalaya is concerned. Are these results much below your expectations, and will they have a dent on the way Mamata Banerjee wants to project herself ahead of 2024?
At the outset, I would like to congratulate the people of Meghalaya. Now you see, we have taken a drive in Meghalaya just 8 or 9 months ago, and it's 14% vote share, and we have won 5 seats, and we are thankful to the people of Meghalaya. Now you could understand one thing, that there is a continuous hype which I was watching, that BJP has swept the entire Northeast. No, it is not like that. You see, in Meghalaya they have got only 2 seats. In 2018, it was 2 seats. In 2023, it was 2 seats.
No, but Biswajit, sorry to interrupt you. With 2 seats, if they're still going to be part of the winning formation, what does it say of the BJP, and where does that leave you?
I beg to differ with you. The NPP and BJP, they contested separately, and so did All India Trinamool Congress under the leadership of Mamata Banerjee and Abhishek Banerjee. And we got 5 seats. It was just a 6 to 7 months drive, and we got 5 seats. It's more than the BJP. BJP got 2 seats, whereas we could able to win 5 seats, and it's more than BJP right at the moment.
Okay.
Similarly, in Nagaland, you can see that it is NDTV. Please let me finish. It is NDTV. It's not BJP. BJP is a part of the alliance. I would like to say Tripura, yes, they have done good.
Sir, but in Nagaland still, they have gone up from 2 to 13.
Still they are -1. I do understand, but they are part of the coalition. It is not a big sweep for BJP.
Okay.
What you are projecting, what the national channels are projecting, and what BJP is projecting.
No, but respectfully, Biswajit Da, they are going to be part of alliances or be in power themselves in all 3 states. The Northeast was a part of India where the BJP in the past used to have zero presence. They are now coming back to power with an alliance partner. They are the junior partner. Resoundingly, even with 2 seats, they are part of the formation in Meghalaya and in Tripura. They've not scored a tsunami wave, but they are still coming. So let us not believe that there is no saffron wave.
Where is the presence?
Where does it leave the other parties is the question.
No. I am not concerned with the other parties. I am not concerned with the Congress.
Okay.
I am concerned with my party. I am concerned with All India Trinamool Congress. Okay. And Trinamool Congress has been
let me bring in Nirja Chaudhary at this moment. Whether you agree there is a BJP wave or not, sir, but there is not a blip as far as the TMC possibly would have hoped for. But Nirja Chaudhary, like we were talking about the broad strokes for the Bharatiya Janata Party and what they can take from this, what do you think about the opposition? What are the lessons that the opposition can learn? Because, you know, even at this moment, and what we saw Rahul Gandhi, his lone rally in Shillong, the focus was more to attack the TMC than the BJP or Conrad Sangma. How does this augur for the elusive opposition unity index ahead of 2024?
Badly if you go by these 3 results. I think, you know, the takeaway, of course, is that BJP is going to be in all the 3 governments, and these regional parties are going with the BJP because they think it will provide them political stability plus money for development works. But the real takeaway from these 3 elections is the state of the Congress party. Its virtual wipeout continues, and they don't seem to be worried. I mean, Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra had great traction. It rebranded his image, it enthused the cadre, but it did not translate into votes in these elections. Now you can say he didn't go through these states, but unless you win elections, whatever else you may do is going to be irrelevant. You are a political party. So the Congress seemed to have just given up on, you know, as you say, one meeting of Rahul Gandhi, Mr. Kharge went to Nagaland, but they didn't take these elections seriously, and that's the hard fact. And unless the Congress party does that, the entire opposition is going to be the loser in 2024. Now, Congress has done well in this Kasba Pet in Maharashtra.
By-election.
It defeated, I mean, that is a silver lining on the horizon today, you know. So, and that is a very big achievement, you know, because after all, it's after so many years defeating the BJP. And that shows you that perhaps there is a sympathy amongst the voters for the way the BJP has acted in Maharashtra. Okay. You know, in the way they toughed out the government, in the way the symbol has come, name has gone to the breakaway faction of the Shiv Sena, whatever. And this may reflect in the BMC election. But certainly that's heartening news for the Congress party, even though it's, you know, 1 seat. Sure. That's very important.
Right. Professor Kumar, if I can just, you know, very quickly also bring you in terms of, you know, election and psephology. The one thing that most psephologists would keep saying that, you need a message. This whole anti-Modism and political parties coming together, whether it is the left and the Congress alliance, it did not work in West Bengal, it's not worked in Tripura. Is the problem in the opposition not being able to project a message, or do they not have an effective messenger as Narendra Modi to put across any sort of message that they want to go to the voters with?
I think, Ankit, both. Only contesting election on the plank of anti-Modi, anti-BJP, even if all the opposition parties come together, is not going to help. That has not helped in the past. There are clear evidences of that. If we look at the UP Assembly elections, UP Lok Sabha elections in 2019, the previous UP Assembly election. So there are clear indications that only coming together of opposition parties on the plank of anti-Modi is not going to work. They need to have an alternative narrative. You need to project something positive to the voter in order to wean away the core supporters of the BJP, if not the core supporters, but those voters who have sided with BJP during last 10 years. That's so the message is also missing, and absolutely you're right. Messenger is also missing. You need someone to carry on this, take this message forward to the voters. The skills of communication is also missing when it comes to the opposition parties.
Hindol, and I'll come back to Sanjay on this question as well. can we extrapolate from this to a nationwide picture, or is it too early?
No, I always think this is too early. You know, there's still many states to go. However, there's one point which is very clear. The BJP has started, as always, its campaign for the next general elections long before any of its opponents. Right. Many of its opponents are still trying to get newspaper space and, you know, score talking points, perhaps even win, I don't know, Ivy League, you know, college campus elections maybe. But the BJP has started its election campaign and they're very serious about it. Now, there are 2 or 3 things that showcases the BJP's, you know, confidence and its, you know, in its focus in fighting the next elections. It's not going to let anything go.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
And it's not going to let even the smallest corner of the country where they could possibly win an election and a seat go. Now, this means we have always been talking that in 2024 they might lose some seats in certain pockets of the country which have been their strongholds. Kasparpet was mentioned.
Yes.
That's an example, right, which used to be a BJP stronghold. But there's already an effort to make up for every seat lost in every nook and corner where other seats can be picked up.
Okay.
Does that sense of urgency, can you see that sense of urgency in the opposition? Perhaps not. And that could well be the determining factor.
Sanjay?
No, absolutely.
Extrapolation, possible or not?
Oh, extrapolation. No, I have been saying that extrapolation should not, at least I am not in favor of extrapolation, because again and again I have mentioned this. Look at what happened in 2018 assembly elections in many states, and when the Lok Sabha election took place in 2019, what happened? What was the verdict?
What about
in
the
many
6
of those
assembly
states?
elections this year? Can we extrapolate these results into the path ahead this year? Forget about 2024 for now.
I think it's going to be a catch-22 situation for the Congress. Suppose Congress does well in 3 or the 4 states, form the government. What would happen is that Congress would become more firm about forming an alliance with the regional party. They would take a more tougher stand, and in that case, alliance won't be formed. If there is no alliance, that's the only way to fight BJP in 2024. All the opposition party needs to come together. And the opposite, if Congress performs very badly in the elections to come, which is to be held in, say, November, then Congress loses the bargaining power. So what we are witnessing is that, in my opinion, a very thin possibility, or I would say a zero possibility of an opposition unity for 2024. But that would keep BJP far ahead of all its opponents.
Okay, running short on time. Niranjana, literally 30 seconds and then 30 seconds to you.
Very quick. Mr. Modi said, you know, look, everybody is trying to corner one person. All out opposition party is not going to be good for the opposition. I think, you know, that they have to look at the states, in, you know, classify them into 3 categories. We can. Those where there is a direct head-on between the Congress and the BJP. Other parties should not, ideally speaking, go there. There are those where the regional parties are head-on with the BJP. There, the other national parties should not go, like the Congress should not go.
Niranjana,
and then just last one. And then there are these khichdi states. Those are the real messy things.
Okay. Sean, they have 30 seconds and genuinely 30 seconds.
Very quickly. One, I think Hindal's point on separatism is not right. I think that is a narrative that is past, and it is, most of these groups are in conversations and dialogue now. The new narrative is engagement, dialogue and change. The second thing is very important to me, is that the BJP and the NDTV in Nagaland are winning not just on the point of development, but also on a negotiated settlement of the Naga issue. So these are some of the larger issues which I think need to be tackled once the dust is settled and the elections results are in.
Completely out of time. Thank you so much to all our guests for joining us